members of the media and the listening public. Today I'm joined by the Minister of Finance and Erica Smith, Executive Director of BEDC. In today's press conference, I will provide an update on two areas: the work from Bermuda Statistics and Renewal for the second year, the Department of Workforce Development Programs update. I am pleased to report that the one-year residential certificate program continues to find success. We have now received a total of 587 applications, of which 508 have been approved. I can further advise that of the approved applications, 244 are currently enjoying life in Bermuda and contributing to the local economy. From the large number of applications received, it is clear that the residential certificate continues to be quite popular. There is also a demand for one-year residents to reside for an additional year, which persons can apply for after 6 months of residency in Bermuda. At this time, I will provide an interim update on the current training and development programs and initiatives implemented to assist the thousands of Bermudians who are out of work. I am pleased to inform you that all participating industry stakeholders have committed to providing employment opportunities to meet their respective staffing needs across the various related occupations and industries. The government remains steadfast in its commitment to addressing the unemployment crisis by supporting training initiatives where there is currently local demand. To communicate with individuals participating in training programs, several virtual and in-person orientation information presentations were conducted by the Department of Workforce Development staff and industry HR professionals. Each stakeholder shared their expectations with participants and invited feedback about their respective occupations. I now provide an update on the various training programs that were conducted. The Certified Cleaning Technicians Program, in partnership with the cleaning industry, 11 Bermudians successfully completed the training program on the 10th of December, with all receiving certificates. To date, 4 companies are in the process of interviewing prospective candidates for employment. Other companies will contact the department after reviewing their staffing needs in the new year. Due to the success of the program and the fact that it was oversubscribed, a second cohort of trainings will commence in March 2021. In partnership with 12 cleaning companies, Atlantic Cleaning and Maintenance was selected to spearhead the training program. The MEF group of companies Waiter Server program. The Waiter Server training program is being offered in partnership with the MEF group and is progressing well. The program currently has 12 Bermudians enrolled. These 12 participants were sourced in response to adverts on the Bermuda Job Board and referrals from the Department of Workforce Development's database. The program is a 15-week in-house on-the-job training program where participants follow a set of curriculum and rotate amongst the MEF restaurants. Similar to the former restaurant training program, this on-the-job training initiative has been suspended until the new year as a result of the COVID-19 restrictions. The Certified Administrative Professionals. The Certified Administrative Professionals program currently has 15 Bermudians enrolled. These 15 Bermudians were assessed and selected from a group of 140 unemployed registered applicants. This training commenced on December 10th, 2020. Due to the program being oversubscribed and given the demand of the industry, the Department of Workforce Development will implement the Microsoft Office Specialist training in partnership with the Bermuda College as an entry-level certification for office assistants. This training will commence in March 2021. Learn to Earn. The new health restrictions placed on the restaurant industry as of December 8, 2020, have had a direct impact on this training program. Each of the industry partners involved, namely Huckleberry, Henry's, Take 5 Group, Island Restaurant Group, and Yellowfin Group, have encountered large-scale cancellations and loss of business. As a result, the decision was taken to suspend the program. This is most unfortunate, as the Department's efforts, which only just begun on March 26, 2020, were directed at completing training for the first and second cohorts of 12 trainees, which were previously suspended in March 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic first hit. A third cohort was scheduled to commence January 25, 2021. The Department of Workforce Development remains committed to ensuring that these Bermudians complete their training and will remain in contact with industry partners. The Microsoft CLIPS online training program currently has 15 Bermudians enrolled. These 15 Bermudians were assessed and selected from a group of 55 unemployed registered applicants. The Department of Workforce Development team will monitor clients' use and lend support and encouragement where needed. Digital literacy. The Digital Literacy Program provides basic Microsoft Suite computer training and instruction for entry-level use. The program currently has 10 Bermudians enrolled. These 10 Bermudians were selected from a group of 46 unemployed registered applicants. Due to the program being oversubscribed, a second cohort of 10 will commence training in February 2021, with the possibility of a third cohort in March 2021. The Horticulture Training Program. The certificate in basic horticulture offered in partnership with the Bermuda College currently has 11 Bermudians registered. These 11 Bermudians were assessed and selected from a group of 29 unemployed registered applicants and 29 from the rolls of the unemployment register who were invited to apply. Classes for an additional cohort will commence January 18th, 2021. Graduate Training Program. Applicants have been shortlisted and the department will be conducting these interviews to begin this week. The program has capacity for a total of 15 participants. Successful candidates will receive coaching, employability skills training, and one-on-one support to develop their personal brand. Each participant will be afforded the opportunity to work in their area of study. We have committed to addressing youth unemployment and sufficiently developing persons to make a significant contribution to Bermuda's workforce. For this reason, the remaining applicants will also receive similar work readiness training and coaching to successfully position them to enter the workforce. It is anticipated that the program will launch in the coming weeks. As a result of these programs, we now have approximately 110 Bermudians in training and employment initiatives. Additional training programs and initiatives will be offered in the new year to ensure that more Bermudians are afforded the opportunity to enhance their employability and professional skills. At this time, I must express my gratitude to the Department of Workforce Development staff for their hard work, commitment, and professionalism as they address the sensitive concerns and anxiety of clients during these unprecedented times. At this time, that concludes my remarks.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Bermuda certainly has seen an increase in our challenges recently as the result of the recent increase in the number of positive cases of COVID-19. I would like to commend the team at the Ministry of Health and all of their stakeholder partners and frontline workers for the significant work they are doing to stop the spread of the coronavirus here and to keep this island safe. In my remarks today, I will cover three areas. They are as follows: the government's new unemployment benefit, the framework for the 2021-2022 budget, and the new electronic registry system for the registrar of companies. Let me start with the government's recently announced unemployment benefit. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on our community, especially on those who find themselves out of work on short notice and without an income as a result of the crisis. Providing emergency financial relief to these families is a responsibility that the government takes seriously. The public will recall when the 18-week unemployment benefit concluded, the the government quickly introduced a supplemental unemployment benefit. Due to recent increases in the number of confirmed cases of people with the coronavirus, on December 7th, the government introduced further precautionary measures to contain the spread of the virus. These measures included a closure of bars, nightclubs, and members clubs. These restrictions may cause affected employers to either temporarily lay off or reduce the hours of their employees. Accordingly, the government has reacted quickly to provide short-term financial assistance to affected employees and introduced a new unemployment benefit to those persons. These benefit payments will pertain to verified employees of bars, nightclubs, and members clubs who have had to close due to current coronavirus restrictions. The total benefit for these persons will be $500 per week for the period that these restrictions are in place. The spirit of this benefit is to compensate individuals who work at these establishments and are unable to earn their ordinary compensation. The initial benefit of 2 weeks, or $1,000, will be paid this week to individuals who have complete application submissions, including verification from their employer. The government will revisit the restrictions on December 22nd and may extend the benefit further if deemed necessary. Due to the speed with which the government responded, an incorrect email address for employers and incomplete web address were posted. Apologies for any confusion or delay this caused. Recent press releases have shared the correct contact information and explained the application process. We encourage all eligible employees and employers to take the time to properly follow the process to ensure payments are made on a timely basis. This information can be found on https:// I can confirm that we have approved 50 applications for this benefit and will be instructing the Accountant General to make payments to those individuals. Our team is currently assessing an additional 110 applications. In addition, individuals who have been directed into mandatory quarantine or isolation by the Ministry of Health and are unable to earn their ordinary compensation while under quarantine or isolation can also apply for this benefit. This benefit was already provided for in the original unemployment benefit, and these individuals will be paid on a bi-weekly basis starting on the 18th of December. The benefit payout will be calculated as 60% of an individual's remuneration with a maximum of $500 per week. At this time, I can confirm that we have received 63 applications for this benefit that are under review and a further 37 that are awaiting employer input. We want to ensure that those persons in our community that need assistance receive it. Therefore, if members of the public who have been impacted by the recent health regulations or have been forced to quarantine or isolate and are unable to earn their normal compensation, I encourage you to fill out the application. It is important to continue to help people through these challenging times, and this unemployment benefit will provide temporary assistance to persons by providing financial support to meet their basic needs. Again, please go to https://uba.gov.bm for complete details on the unemployment benefits. Preparing for the 2021-22 budget will be challenging given the unprecedented uncertainties in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. As highlighted in a recent ministerial statement that I made in the House of Assembly, in fiscal year 2020-2021, the government has taken and continues to take unprecedented policy actions to redirect existing resources towards health and social support measures. These actions have required unbudgeted COVID-19 expenditures of approximately $125 million for this fiscal year. COVID-19 has also had a significant impact on government revenues, and the ministry estimates that revenue yields for 2020-2021 will contract by about 18.5%, or $208 million. After factoring in the impact of COVID-19 and various austerity measures by the government, the revised deficit for 2020-2021 is estimated at $295.4 million. Other factors which will impact the framing and composition of the 2021-22 budget include continuing deficits, high debt levels and a debt ceiling, government's 2020 general election campaign platform and the 2020 speech from the throne, economic considerations, taxation sensitivities, continuation of zero-based budgeting that will include a public service value assessment to provide for a better quality portrayal of the range of services delivered by the government of Bermuda, feedback from the pre-budget report in advance of fiscal year 2021-22, risk facing the country, and the implementation of government's fiscal strategy, which is to reduce net debt and balance the budget by 2023-24. Like most small states and territories, the Bermuda economy is highly vulnerable to external events, underlying the need for financial and fiscal prudence. This vulnerability is compounded by our continuing budget deficits and the government's indebtedness. This vulnerability has now materialized in a far more rapid and powerful form than anyone could have expected with the onset of COVID-19. The government has to take a number of actions to address the problems the island faces, and it is important that stakeholders and citizens understand these vulnerabilities, have the opportunity to give their views, and are aware of the factors driving the government's fiscal policy decisions. Therefore, in keeping with our pledge on openness and transparency, we will continue with the process of releasing a pre-budget report as part of the preparation for the 2021-22 budget. The objective of the pre-budget report is to increase public awareness of a government's fiscal and budget policy objectives and to establish a benchmark for evaluating the conduct of fiscal and budget policy. This will continue to ensure that our budget process is clear, and our pre-budget report will explain the factors driving the government's fiscal policy decisions while also giving everyone the opportunity to make their views known during this period of uncertainty. I can confirm that the pre-budget report in advance of the 2021-22 fiscal year will be released before the end of the year, and we welcome all key stakeholders, including you, the people of Bermuda, to fully participate in the process after the report is released. An important part of this government's economic recovery plan relates to making the government more efficient. To this end, I am pleased to report on recent legislation passed which will make us more efficient in the area of company formation, an important part of the Bermuda economy. I'm referring to the Companies and Partnerships Electronic Registry Amendment Act of 2020. This bill amends the Companies Act of 1981 and other legislation to provide the Minister of Finance with the authority to make regulations to require that all documentation under the relevant acts be filed with or issued by the Registrar of Companies is to be filed or issued electronically. This legislation is important as it will provide a legal framework for a new electronic registry system for the Registrar of Companies, which will replace the existing outdated, obsolete systems which are no longer supported by vendors and is extremely administratively burdensome and to some degree costly for industry and the government. The Registrar's electronic system will be implemented in several phases, beginning with some of the registration services available in February of 2021. The remaining services will be made available over the ensuing months with the expectation that by summer of 2021, the Registrar of Companies will be fully operating its electronic registry system. Upon the full implementation of the electronic registration system, all filings required by the various pieces of legislation will be submitted via the electronic platform, which will be hosted by the Registrar of Companies website. Certificates and notices required to be issued by the Registrar will be generated by the electronic registration system. This also means that all records that are required to be available to the public will be available for viewing online. This legislation also aligns with the government's paperless by 2023 plan and will provide quality public services in the area of company formation to address the needs and expectations of citizens and businesses. In closing, I want to remind everyone that this recent uptick in cases means we must continue to do our part. Avoid socializing, especially outside of your bubble. Download the WeHealth app and follow the public health guidelines. I'd also like to wish all of you a happy holiday and a safe and prosperous new year. Thank you.
Good afternoon, listening public. Thank you, ministers, for inviting me to be present at this press conference today. In April 2020, the government allocated $12 million in additional funding to BDC to assist local small and medium-sized businesses to be able to weather the storm caused by the COVID-19 global pandemic. To date, we have successfully provided close to $3 million in support utilizing these funds, and we've also included a full distribution of BDC's earned capitalization ability. We've maxed that out at $1 million. Thus far, this amounts to 130 businesses getting the financial support they needed during these unprecedented times. We believe that this is only the beginning. As we transition into January, February, March, traditionally slow months for economic activity, we anticipate that we'll have an upturn in applications. Due to the recent mandatory closure and quarantine notices issued by the Ministry of Health, it has been determined that there will be a need for further financial support for the businesses that have been impacted by these notices. Specifically, those businesses are bars, nightclubs, members clubs, and restaurants. As such, BDC has set aside a total of $1 million out of the $12 million in COVID-19 funding support provided by the government for an emergency grant relief program. As in the case with all BDC financial products, applications will be reviewed and funds provided based on need. Tomorrow, Thursday, December the 17th at 9 a.m., BDC will be accepting online applications for emergency grants from bars, nightclubs, members clubs, and restaurants to assist with overhead expenses that include rent for the business location, utilities, social insurance, and health insurance premiums. This emergency grant fund does not apply to salaries, as that should be covered under the unemployment benefit being offered through the government. Applications for assistance can be made online on our website at www.bedc.bm. Please note that this product is available for BDC members only, and so if you are not a member of BDC and need the emergency grant, you'll be able to register prior to completing the online grant application form, and there is no cost to become a member of BDC. Maximum grant amounts will be provided based on the 5 funding bands established in April 2020 as part of BDC's COVID-19 Business Continuity and Sustainability Funding Program. The first 4 bands are allocated to small businesses, and the last band is earmarked for medium-sized businesses as defined under BDC's legislation. Maximum grant amounts will range from $5,000 to $7,000 per business, depending on the size of the business defined by its annual revenue generated over the last 12 months between December 2019 and November 2020. The amount of grant allocated will be validated by the submission of invoices and bills for the 4 identified overhead expense areas mentioned earlier: rent, utilities, health insurance, and social insurance. The COVID-19 emergency grant will be in place until the funds are exhausted or until deemed no longer necessary. To ensure that all of the $12 million funds that were allocated in April are utilized, the BDC is also working to further expand its existing COVID-19 Business and Continuity Sustainability Funding Program, which was launched in April 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. After 9 months of providing support to businesses immediately impacted by COVID-19, it is evident that funding support needs to be expanded. This further expansion will allow the BDC to consider all requests for financial support, including stimulus and innovative business ideas, and to utilize available funds to support more viable businesses in need. The program will continue to work within BDC's existing funding capabilities to best leverage the total funding available and assist as many businesses as possible. And business owners will be able to utilize a combination of BDC's financial products, bank financial products, credit union financial products, to be able to maximize their ability to get the capitalization they need to survive, thrive, pivot, and even start their business at this time. More details on this expansion of the funding program will be provided next week. But interested business owners should contact us, BDC, directly by either email at info@BDC or call in 292-5570. And as indicated, additional information can be found on our website at bdc.bm. Please note that although our physical offices are closed, the BDC staff are working remotely and are contactable through email, telephone, or web conferencing. All of our operations are functional with regards to receiving and processing applications and providing business advice. Although the rise in cases has caused concern, it will not deter us or stop business growth. If there is one thing I know about entrepreneurs, it is that they are resilient, and we will meet them where they are with new products and services to ensure the necessary support is being provided. I want to thank the Bermuda government, the Premier, the Minister of Finance, and the Cabinet for the additional funding given to help local small and medium-sized businesses. This really represents an understanding and responsive government, and this support has gone a long way to assist local entrepreneurs when they needed it most. We are encouraged by what we have seen thus far and how businesses have shifted, whether it be building an online presence or changing their business model. In each scenario, please know that BDC team is here to support you. Together, we will continue to press on through the pandemic and beyond. Thank you. That's my remarks for today.
Thank you. At this time, we welcome questions from the media.
Thanks for having us, folks. I'm Jonathan Bell from the Gazette. Finance Minister, actually, I'll start with yourself. With the current rounds of payments that are going out, earlier we had reported that they would be going out on today. I don't believe that's correct. Do we know when this week those payments are going to be going out to the bars, nightclubs, restaurants, et cetera?
It is our hope that they will go up before the end of the week, as soon as tomorrow. But the way that the payments actually work is they are transmitted to HSBC, and then HSBC transmits them further to the other banks. So what may end up happening is HSBC clients will see payments tomorrow, and the other banks' clients will see payments as soon as Friday.
So it's really best to say just this week.
So the end of the week is probably the safest thing to say.
Righto, sir. I wanted to ask, obviously there's been different types of benefits this year, and you did mention that there's a chance that this latest one could be extended if we have to extend restrictions. I guess it follows from that if there's more of a, I guess lockdown is the only word for it, is there scope for this type of benefit to go back to a kind of unemployment benefit type scenario for other industries if they're impacted?
Well, this benefit is very targeted at two groups of people, those who work in bars, restaurants, and members clubs, and that's the first group. And the second group is persons who have been, at the direction of the Ministry of Health, told to quarantine for a certain period of time, and who have seen or whose incomes will be adversely impacted by their ability to not work. And so inasmuch as we need to extend the length of the health guidance of the health regs. We will similarly look to extend the scope or the timing of the unemployment benefit. Again, we're trying to provide some degree of support for those persons who have been adversely affected, who cannot go to work because their places of employment have been asked to close by the Ministry of Health.
Thank you, sir. Just switching gears slightly, we wanted to check if we were anywhere with GenCom in terms of getting the money back on the redundancies or conversations with them about that. Is there any update that you can give us on that situation?
Sure. We've been engaged in dialogue with GenCom. The statutory demand, as you may recall, has been outstanding for 2 weeks as of Monday. We have had a couple of conversations with them. Discussions are ongoing, and they continue to work to resolve the issue.
Thank you, sir. Labor Minister, I just wanted to switch over to you. I guess in general, in terms of the of public offices, with the knock-on effect from quarantines and just the situation we're under, how stretched are we in terms of the government departments? I'm presuming the folks who can work remotely are doing that, but you know, what's the impact that you're seeing within government departments on their staffing?
So the departments are trying to work as best as they possibly can with the current resources. Those departments that have the ability to work remotely, officers are being encouraged to work remotely. We have a number of public servants who are parents who have been impacted by school closures, and those individuals are working remotely from home as best as they possibly can. But in terms of the impact on services, I think that the government continues to provide the services that the country requires it to provide at this time.
Thanks. So following from that, is there any update on the bus situation? There was word the other day that there would be a conversation between the, I believe, transport and yourselves and the unions as to whether they might be going back tomorrow. Do you know?
Yes, certainly. I believe that the Minister of Transport did indicate that they were working on a resolution, and that by the end of this week the buses will be running.
Thanks for that. Lastly, I wanted to, well, two things. So we've heard about the decertification matter, and it looked as though there would be a good conversation happening between yourselves and the unions on their concerns. I wanted to hear a bit on how that is going to work. I mean, the legislation has now passed in the House. Obviously, it hasn't gone through the Senate, but how's that conversation? If the unions, the BTUC joined in on that, how will that conversation work exactly?
I believe the Bermuda Trade Union Congress press release was a few days too late. I met with the unions on Friday, and we came to a common understanding on the interpretation of the legislation, and we agreed on a process on how we will proceed forward.
Thanks for that, sir. And lastly, and I have to stress this is purely hearsay, I don't know that this is happening or not, it sounded as though there might have been some type of labor issue this morning at the hospital. Again, pure hearsay. Were you aware of it? Has there been any kind of...
I haven't received any reports about a labor issue at the hospital this morning.
Right on. Thank you, sir.
Minister, the government, are there any government departments that have been closed to the public as a result of this pandemic?
There are a number of government departments that have adjusted the way in which they operate. I'll be providing a report later this week on the Department of Immigration and how it will operate moving forward as a result of, number one, the pandemic, staff shortages, process improvements.
Okay. I was interested in the, do I have this right? There's money being paid to employees of bars and restaurants and members clubs for people who are obviously not getting any income. And there's also money being paid to the clubs themselves. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. So I'm just wondering, what's the bar for getting paid as a members club particularly? I mean, can Mid-Ocean apply to get some of this money?
That's a good question. So There's approximately 150 licensed establishments with the Liquor License Authority, so combining of restaurants, nightclubs, members clubs, and some of that, some additional is hotels. Of course, hotels are not applicable under this scheme, but it is a needs-based scheme, first and foremost, and so every application will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If it's determined through the submission of their documents that they continue to generate revenue, that their income has not been affected by the closures and they're still operating, then of course that business would not be successful in getting one of these grants. So we are assessing the need, and we will apply a lens on a needs basis.
So you just have to demonstrate that your business has been affected financially.
Absolutely, and so we're requiring a submission of their bank statements for the year prior and evidence of sales the 3 months prior to the closure.
Okay, so, Minister, I would assume that almost any business can demonstrate that. So Mid-Ocean could apply.
Well, I think Mid-Ocean is categorized as a hotel. So based on that characterization, they couldn't apply. Now, there may be, if Mid-Ocean's bars have been impacted by it and their employees have been told to go home because of restrictions on their activities, then the employees can apply to the hypothetical.
So the employees can get some money, but we're not going to pay Mid-Ocean any money. I mean, you know, there's a number of private members clubs. One assumes that there are private members clubs because they want to be amongst their own affairs.
Right, but you have to apply a needs-based analysis to it. They can apply, but do they need the funding, right? Are their operations impacted so significantly and they have no access to cash or reserves in order to cover that, then maybe possibly they could be approved, but I would find an example such as Mid-Ocean to be difficult to support. They would have to prove and submit those documents to see that they actually need the limited support that's being provided under this program.
Okay. Minister, the other question is, you know, how far do we go? I think you said already that, you know, you'll be reassessing over time, but I mean, it seems like there's a lot of money that's been spent. We were already in a difficult position financially, and then we went out and borrowed a whole lot of money, and now it just seems like the door's wide open and the money's just flowing out. So I'm wondering, how far are you prepared to go before you have to go to Parliament again with another budget? You know, because next year the suggestion is it's not going to really be that much better.
Well, David, I wouldn't agree with the characterization that money's flowing out the door. Yes, we did take some actions in the early days of the pandemic to provide for persons who could not work, and we spent approximately $60 million in support of that. I would say that with the passage of time, we have put into place a number of measures on the health space with respect to testing and all the other protocols that are intended to strike a balance between preserving people's health, but also preserving the health of our economy. And so we work constantly to try to get it right. This program has been very targeted towards a specific part of our economy where we were seeing potential for elevated levels of risk. And so we will continue to assess where the resources need to be focused, but unless we move back to a place where there is a shutting down of the island, which I don't foresee, then we will continue to be targeted in our approach to providing support. I think what I would say also is this: there is a real economic impact to closing down businesses. And so our citizens need to follow the rules, because the more pervasive rule breaking is, the more costly it will be for the economy and, by extension, the government. Our primary focus is on ensuring that people stay safe and that we don't have a situation where we are overwhelming our only hospital And so inasmuch as we have to take actions to encourage people to stay home while we continue to assess the situation, we will do those things, and we understand that those things do come at a cost. But I don't think anyone would begrudge the government providing support to persons who can't provide for themselves.
Okay, just one other thing about the pre-budget report. You had a couple of remarks about that. I'm just wondering, between the period of time you're saying you're going to come before the end of the year and give people a chance to comment, I mean, is there really any time to make any significant changes between that time and the time you have to actually prepare or finish preparing a budget? Most people assume it's pretty much already done. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what could possibly change, what could you possibly make different in your budget proposals between the time that this consultation process is completed and the time that you have to go before Parliament?
Well, I would say that the budget will be delivered late in February, so there are probably between 8 to 10 weeks between now and then, which in budget time is a lot of time. Budgets are currently being worked on by individual ministries. They have not yet been submitted to the Ministry of Finance for consolidation. There will be a review process that has to take place. The pre-budget report for the 2020-2021 process came out mid to late January. So we have more than enough time to publish the report and to hear from people with respect to the content in terms of the things that the government is considering. I don't expect that the budget will be extraordinarily controversial from a revenue perspective, because I'm not intending to introduce any new taxes or raise any taxes.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I just wondered if the government actually does an assessment after they have after we see the sort of industrial action that we saw recently on the docks, for example. Every time one of these events happen, is there any assessment as to, what this cost us, what has been the effect of it, the economic effect or the, any part of effect on the community? We're talking about, in this case, people were talking about Christmas trees that won't make it or whatever. But I mean, a true economic impact. Is that done by your department or by the Ministry of Finance?
Outside of the economic indicators produced by the Department of Statistics, there is not additional economic impact assessments done after industrial events.
Should there be? Should you know, as a government making decisions, should you know how much of an effect this was?
David, I think if I could have my druthers, and I would say yes, but remember, I am operating in an environment of a pandemic, and there are a number of other priorities that need to be focused on. And my hope with respect to industrial action is that we can have as little of it as possible, and that parties can get together and talk out their issues. We'd rather not have to divert resources to kind of calculating the impact of industrial action on the economy. So my best answer for that is we'd like to be able to have the capability, but right now we don't, and we're focused on other more pressing things.
But something to think about in the future?
I think it's something to think about, but we are not in what I would call a normal environment, and so resources are directed to the things that are most pressing, which is getting this economy going again. For me right now, it's budget, so we have to have all the energy focused on preparing a budget for next year for the country.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other further questions from the media? All right, thank you all for attending and have a great day.